the thing about photos that strengthens families?
Well, it's called elaborative reminiscing. It's the process of reliving those memories. And as you relive them, you add detail to them and they become more concrete. And there's all this stuff that happens as parents and kids, or kids, with their siblings, with their friends, like elaborate on these memories. It creates all these positive outcomes that are linked to, just a vast body of research that shows that looking at family photos and reminiscing on them together reduces anxiety, strengthens families, promotes better problem solving, and actually helps parents feel like they're doing a better job.
Welcome back to the Sparks of Gratitude podcast. We are excited and grateful for you. And we believe here that if you can change your perspective, you can change your life and you can ignite that fire with the Sparks of Gratitude. And we have an awesome guest couple today, Nate and Vanessa Quigley. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
And we're really happy to do this.
Yeah, and if you don't know them, you probably know what they have given to you that's sitting on your coffee table, which is Chatbooks, helping you remember your family and your best moments. And I've been really excited for this because, as I was talking to you guys before, when my wife and I decided to do this podcast, we believe everybody has good stories and good experiences and things to share. And we said, who have we had in our life who have impacted our lives for good, that we're grateful for, and that's who we want to talk to. And we love Chatbooks, but then when we met you, we said Chatbooks is nothing compared to the quality of these people.
Oh man, thanks, Randy. Thank you.
I want to go back to, I don't know, Vanessa, if you remember the first time I met you in person, but I'd met Nate several times, and the first time I met you in person, you were definitely not yourself because you were deep in COVID and had no energy, and I was at your house.
Right. Oh, that's right. You came to drop something off, didn't you?
And I felt so bad for you.
Oh my gosh, I honestly don't even remember. I was so deep.
Yeah, I do not blame you for not remembering it because you were doing your best just to show up and say, okay, Randy, I got to sign some stuff for you. I'm so sorry. I'm going back to bed.
You remember that now, yeah.
No, but since then I've been able to meet you and learn the better side of you.
Aww.
I have a couple questions, maybe a little bit about Chatbooks, and then dive in a little bit with maybe some more personal questions, if you don't mind. So one of the things that I love about Chatbooks is the mission. So could you tell me a little bit about what the mission, the vision is for Chatbooks?
Well, the mission and the vision are two different things
for us.
When we talk about it in our company, our mission is to strengthen families. And, that we obviously are doing through the products that we sell. Also, the way that we run things internally, the way we structure a company, kind of just the way we manage our teams. But when we talk about the vision, we talk about it just a little bit differently.
Yeah, the mission is like why we're trying to do what we're doing. And we think that by helping people see these everyday magic moments and then, recognize them, take a picture of them, get them in their books and print them, they'll, in looking through those books, kind of see the next one a little bit easier and appreciate, oh, that moment really was special. Wait a minute, another one's happening right now. And we think that as families look at those experiences they've had together, even the little simple basic things, we call them the everyday magic moments, that just strengthens the family relationship. So that's the mission. The vision for us, when we talk about that, is like, what does it look like, at the end of this year or in 5 years or in 10 years? What's our vision for that period? What does the company actually look like? Or where is Chatbooks to make that mission possible or make that mission actually happen? So the summary of the vision is that chatbooking becomes an everyday word that people just sort of know. And they're thinking about capturing memories, recognizing moments as part of their, kind of how they chatbook. So it's a big thing because there are not very many companies that have created sort of verbs that have been added to the dictionary, like Kleenex comes to mind, but there's not a million of them. But that's our vision, is that to really actually strengthen a lot of families, chapbooks would become a household word and chapbooking would be a verb.
And that chapbooking that he's referring to, like recognizing those everyday magical moments, essentially is a gratitude practice. You know, when you are actively seeking for little, sparks of magic in the regular like hustle and bustle and chaos of family life, you're actually looking for little things that you're grateful for, even if it is like a mess that your toddler just made, or the pile of dirty, muddy shoes at the back door. Those are things that I am immensely grateful for, and become really important in our family life.
It's funny, chapbooking is basically the visual gratitude journal, Randy.
Yeah.
And ideally, our main product is this chapbook subscription where you add somewhere between 30 and 30 and 60 photos a month to your month book. So it's kind of a photo a day from both mom and dad is kind of the top number, and a photo a day from mom or from dad if it's just one, parent or partner doing it. But yeah, it's funny, you walk around like that little thing right there, that's it. And when we see a montage of these photos that get added to chapbooks, you do kind of recognize, wait a minute, that's the whole thing in life. Like, it isn't the sort of really fancy posed kind of stereotypical Christmas card picture, where everyone's like wearing a matching outfit and the lighting's really good and you have a professional photographer. Like, those are interesting milestones in time. And it's not really the sort of, hey, everyone's here on the beach with a palm tree in the background because we went to Hawaii and we're going to take a picture of this. And that's also a great milestone, a great moment. But it's actually like dad's holding the baby and looking at the baby, and he just can't help but smile, and mom somehow sees that and takes a picture of it. That's like the most valuable picture in the universe. And really, what's cool about that is when you start to recognize, wait, that's the most important bit. That's the one I love the most. When I look back over my chapbooks from the last couple of years, we really do think you recognize it more today and tomorrow than had you not been chapbooking.
You know something, the first time I met you, Nate, I met Nate first, and I knew you had started Chatbooks, and I said, I can't wait till he comes in because I need to tell him how grateful we are for creating that. And my wife says, and she wanted to work for Chatbooks. She says, I want to go work for them because I love what they're doing. And Nate, you said, well, what does she do? Let's get her in here. And that's how I feel about it, is that it is this daily gratitude practice that I took social media off my phone forever ago, and I was just distracted by it. But I would send, anytime I had a photo that mattered to me, I would send it to my wife, and I said, this one's for the chapbook.
You were using it as a verb.
I do. And if it helps at all, in this house, we use it as a verb.
I love it.
So as broad as my influence goes among the five of us, we'll see.
No, it's amazing. Like, we're gonna get to that vision sort of one house at a time. So I'm really glad the Sparks house is there.
Yeah, and to kind of extend on that gratitude, what we began with the Chatbooks before my youngest, my oldest kids are teenagers, but I have a younger one. She was a straggler, and more than any of us, she goes to the Chatbooks all the time. Because she's experiencing those family moments that she wasn't a part of, and she can't get enough of it. And she asks me about all of them, and they're all right there in the living room for her. So cool. And she's not going to read my gratitude journal, but she's going to look through the chapbook. Maybe after I die, she'll read my gratitude journal. But
what you just described is this magical thing that Vanessa uncovered with two PhD professors, one from the U, one from BYU. We united the rivalry to do this research along with HP, a partner. And you want to describe the fancy words you guys uncovered to that actually, what is the thing about photos that strengthens families?
Well, it's called Elaborative Reminiscing. It's the process of reliving those memories. And as you relive them, you add detail to them and they become more concrete. And there's all this stuff that happens as parents and kids, or kids, with their siblings, with their friends, like elaborate on these memories. It creates all these positive outcomes that are linked to, just a vast body of research that shows that looking at family photos and reminiscing on them together reduces anxiety, strengthens families, promotes better problem solving, and actually helps parents feel like they're doing a better job.
Yeah. So when your daughter's asking you about it, in general, you guys elaboratively reminiscing together, it's making you feel like a better dad, which is going to actually make you a better dad. And it's helping your daughter feel more bonded and more connected.
I love how you said that it inspires one to become a better dad by going through that experience, because I've talked to a lot of people, including myself. I've had a tendency to, hear people talking about doing something awesome. And then I feel, oh man, I'm being a terrible dad. These guys are killing it and I'm doing terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But where you describe that of saying, hey, this is inspiring you to, rather than you feeling less than.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's,
you see, a minute, I thought I was a terrible dad, but this book and the way my daughter is talking to me about it, maybe I wasn't such a schlub after all. Like, I'm doing okay. I'm gonna keep trying.
Oh yeah, I'm tripping my way through life, but man, I'm trying my best.
Yeah, and the book, that little artifact, is actually kind of proof that, we actually had a good moment right there. Maybe we've got some more in us.
We do. We have a lot of good moments, and even when I don't flip through them, you've heard millions of testimonials of this, I'm sure. But I walk past my living room and I just see, dozens and dozens of them in rows on the shelf. And when I see them, it just, I don't need to see the photos, but I remember that they're there, and I remember that I had those moments. So,
and you have this history, this beautiful, rich, varied history of, all of the things, the highs, the lows, the messy, the tidy, the big milestones, the little magical moments. It's all woven together to this beautiful life that we have together.
Yeah. We talk about holding on to what matters most. And like that's some kind of desire we have inside of us. Like, we don't want to lose or let go or forget these really important things. And to do that, we've got to help people safeguard, organize, and then be able to enjoy their memories and experiences together. And there's something about seeing your books on the shelf with like a title on the spine that shows you the date range of the photo. Those photos are like somehow sorted. You know what I mean? Like, we've got them. And we think that also just is part of what Chatbooks can do for families.
I love it. And speaking of your mission, coming back to that, of the mission of Chatbooks is to strengthen families. Could you talk to me a little bit about how that goes beyond? It seems like there's three parts to that. One is strengthen families like mine. I'm the consumer and a user of Chatbooks. I am a chat booker, right? I'll bring the verb back into it.
Love it.
A chat booker who is chat booking. Anyway, now Hannah, there we go. So I'm part of that mission. But you also have your team at Chatbooks, and that's a family, whether the work family and their own families, plus the Quigley family. That seems like the triangle that's involved here.
Yeah, I like that.
Could you maybe talk to me a little bit about those other 2 points of the triangle, of how this mission is achieved on the Chatbooks team and as well as your own family?
Yeah. Which one do you want to take?
I'll take our own family.
Okay.
I will say that I have worked in theater for a lot of my life, and there's something really magical that happens when a cast of people are brought together to work on a common goal, to put on a show, and everyone, has their unique parts that they play. But in the end, come showtime, when that curtain opens, everyone just has to do their best. And maybe a lighting cue misses, or maybe someone forgets another cue. Never, ever do you have a perfectly clean show. But if everyone just shows up and does their best and is there to support each other, it's a success. And I feel like as our family has come together in this phase, the last 10 years of our life building Chatbooks, it has required everyone to show up in a unique way. For me, it has been going to work full time for the first time ever, which then requires, the kids to show up in a new way. Like, sometimes they have to make their own dinners, or, like, mom's not coming in for the class parties like I used to. Nate has to show up differently when I have to travel for work. We, often tag team things that were, primarily on my plate when he was the only one working full time. So it's that kind of like, family tag teaming. But the fact that we're working towards a goal that we all care so much about, like, I think all of our kids would say that it is no secret that family is the most important thing to us. And I'm really grateful that we have a very close, tight-knit family. So there's something about like putting on this, grand show, which is Chatbooks, and everyone working together and some night someone calls in sick, and so you got to cover this role. And for me, that's how I think about it in my world of theater.
We've also talked about it like it's a family farm, and partly that we've talked about that because we're not trying to like balance work and life. It's just we're all in it and we're doing work and life together, and it's totally integrated, like it would be if you were running a dairy farm in Millard County, Utah, 60 years ago.
Like his relatives.
Like my relatives did.
Yeah.
That, sort of everyone's just sort of pitching in and doing our life's work together. And we're not really worrying about like, do we have this 8 hours and that 8 hours perfectly separated? They all kind of just blend together, and we try not to stress out about it. It's been fun because the kids have all, I think any entrepreneurial family, there are sacrifices to be made. Like, for example, we were living on the beach in Florida and had a really nice, life down there where Vanessa grew up, and
we had a really good life.
Everybody was happy. Sorry, we don't want to fuck through there because it's cold outside right now.
There's more behind that laugh that you're giving right there.
Yeah,
I bet we could talk for hours about that.
I went full visionary man on my family and like dragged them out of their comfortable home into the wilderness of Utah. Utah's beautiful. It's not just a wilderness, but the whole family had to leave friends behind and a lifestyle behind that they were everyone was really comfortable with. And that was the very first sacrifice or investment, but not the last, to kind of make Chatbooks happen as a family. And then all the kids too have had a chance to sort of work at Chatbooks. Like our daughter, for example, is Vanessa's sound engineer on her podcast. And our other daughter was Vanessa's TikTok video
content creator
and helped Vanessa go viral a couple of times with millions of views. And our son helped translate the app into Spanish. Another son is working full time right now in our analytics team. And I actually was getting a little keynote kind of thing ready to make a presentation down at BYU earlier this week. And I was, telling it was like kind of to an entrepreneurship class about how do you get out of the, that early startup stage where you don't know what you're doing yet. And I found a picture of our daughter, Claire, who's on a mission in Peru right now, helping. There's a picture I took that I hadn't seen in a long time, but surfaced as I was digging up sort of Chatbooks history and lore. And it was Claire helping me stuff envelopes for like an influencer marketing campaign it was Thanksgiving, actually. The morning of Thanksgiving, we were doing this project. It was like behind and totally out of control. And I just had this little picture of Claire, like 9 years ago as a little girl, stuffing envelopes. And so, yeah, the kids have come together like this is the Quigley family farm for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not milking cows, but you're working and doing family all the time.
We're working together, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other piece of that triangle, our team, and I really try not to refer to our team as our family because, instead we talk about our all-star team because, any sports team, sometimes you have to make a trade. Mm-hmm. You don't do that with your kids and your family.
No, you don't trade your family.
You can't trade a particularly troublesome teenager.
Even if you might want to.
Even if. But, family's most important to us. And that is the case for everyone that works for us. And they want to be able to show up for their family in a way that allows them to show up for Chatbooks in their best way. And so that looks like different policies and norms and a culture that supports families. And, whether that's like maternity or paternity leave, or it's flexible work hours or mandatory time off. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny. We actually, a while ago, we said, could we create, because so many of our customers are women. I mean, the vast majority of our customers are women. The vast majority of those women are moms. We said to ourselves early on, how could Chatbooks become the best place to work for moms in Utah? And that was kind of a goal. How can we set up our culture so that, if you're a mom interested in tech or entrepreneurship or marketing, this is the place you want to work. And amazingly, a couple of years ago, we were actually recognized as the best place in the US to work for women in technology, which we were super excited about. And then somehow and insanely, last year, we were recognized as the best place to work in the US for small and medium-sized businesses. So that's kind of like businesses less than $100 million in revenue, which was also just really, really gratifying to see that the efforts we've been making on our culture really have created a kind of place that stands out and feels a little bit different.
It seems to me that mission, whether you had Chatbooks or not, your mission would have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
whatever you were doing, just knowing you that would have been the mission that the Quigleys would have wanted.
Yeah, I
What
think
is
that's
kind of
true.
how we gravitated.
And
I
you
know.
happen to have these photo memory books.
Yeah, for sure.
So what about, it doesn't always go well. How has this mission helped you get through and maybe describe some of those dark moments, maybe in the family or in the business, where that's where, to me, gratitude and a practice of gratitude is the most potent, is seeing it when times are hard. It's really easy for me to be grateful for indoor plumbing and, a fireplace. But when I'm in the depths of sorrow, how can I find that perspective? So what's an example? Maybe you've gone through that and how you found gratitude through it.
Well, I'll do a quick, I'll do the very early Chatbook story. This is the classic, overnight success story that followed a long wander and struggle in the dark and dreary place of the wilderness. We started Chatbooks for about the first 2.5 years or so that I was working on it full time, and Vanessa wasn't even working on it full time yet. We were getting nowhere. We were just doing all the wrong things. And, it got really expensive. So, we weren't paying ourselves and we were paying a lot of other people and didn't have the right product, didn't have the, go-to-market strategy, didn't have customers, didn't have revenue, didn't have, anything. And that got to, obviously for a long time as an entrepreneur, you have to just sort of keep your head down and keep plowing ahead. But it got to the point where it was, scary, sort of dangerously low on fumes. And what are we going to do? So I definitely had, some dark nights of the soul moments of, what have I done with my career, with our family's savings? Why am I so stubborn? How come I didn't quit, sort of, 2 years ago when the first 6 months didn't work out? What is wrong with me? And I was grateful in that at that moment to have the faith that I had of just somehow we're going to be supported here. We're going to somehow, find a way. Because I needed that a couple of times where it was just incredibly depressing, demoralizing, discouraging. I had the classic thing you hear about, like the stereotypical wandering around your kitchen at 3 a.m. in the dark, like staring off into space and like heating up boiling water to make chamomile tea because you can't sleep. Like I've had that moment. You don't wish that on, anybody. And lots of people have had way, way harder challenges than that. But that was, really a tough moment for me. And I don't think I would have made it out if I didn't have some kind of faith that we're not going to be cast to the dogs. And Vanessa thankfully came and rescued me in that moment. And also, in addition to sort of giving me the buck up camper speech, she also had the brilliant idea to make it really easy for people to print their Instagram, which, saved the business and pulled it out of the wilderness. That's one I'm grateful for, is that I didn't just, wander off into the night. I had enough, belief that we were going to find our way, that I was able to just at least stay in the kitchen. I didn't wander off into the, dark of the wilderness itself.
Mm-hmm. And I had enough faith in you that I didn't say, just stop this. This is ridiculous. Go get a corporate job. Let's just get a paycheck and benefits. And I had a lot of faith in you, and I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
So, but there's dark moments in the journey of any business that is being built. I think that's just par for the course. But we've had our fair share of like hard things in our family as well as we've been building the business. And I'm really grateful for that family focus of our culture that has allowed me, as I've needed to take time to focus on family, to step back and to, step away from the business in a full-time position to be able to focus on the needs of my family and, other teammates as members as needs have come up, they can do the same. And so I'm grateful that we have a business that was flexible enough for me to do that. And also that the thing that I'm spending so much of my time on away from home, it feels like it is just reinforcing all of my core values. I think if I were spending so much time away to, I don't know, like sell soft drinks or, whatever, that the corporate opportunity that Nate had, I'm referring to, was an opportunity to work in an industry that wasn't necessarily strengthening families or,
Hey, soft drinks play an important role in the world. We shouldn't knock them.
Well,
But
they
what
play
I'm
a role in getting my money. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. That's true. Maybe there is a more
Mhm.
lucrative thing to be doing out there, but I feel really, really good about how I'm spending my time when I'm not at home. And I'm grateful to have a business that allows me to spend more time at home when I need to.
So I recently interviewed a guy named Bob Goff. Either of you ever heard of him before? He's amazing. Thank me later. Look him up. He's the best. And he wrote a book called Love Does. And this guy, more than anyone I know, lives his life all in and just loves life, loves people, loves Jesus, and is doing something about it. And in his book, one of many, in Love Does, he writes at the beginning of every chapter, the introduction is, I used to think this, but now I know this. So is there anything in your life that you used to believe, but now you've learned something else? And maybe give me some examples.
You want me to start?
Yes.
Okay, so the big one for me that just sort of is smacking me, in the face over and over again, and I'm really trying to just accept it and learn to kind of live my life and see things differently as a result, is that I just can't control all the outcomes. That there are some things that are in my control and I can do my best. I can basically have circumstances happen and then I can stop and decide, what do I want to let myself think about that? I can even have emotions I can feel, and I can step back from that and say, okay, what do I want to think about that? Is there anything I want to say to anyone about that? And what do I want to do about that? But those are the 3 and only 3 things I can actually control. And the rest of it, I have to just sort of let go and, give to God and the universe and the wind. I can hope that other things happen, but I just can't engineer all the outcomes that I want. I can only do one of those 3 things. And, that's hard for me to accept because there are some outcomes I really, really want, and obviously we have important outcomes. We're doing everything we can for our investors and our business and all that stuff. And there's lots of other responsibilities we have, but I'm speaking specifically about, our children. You have this very strong set of hopes and dreams for your children's outcomes. But we don't get to pick. There's a million things outside of our control, because the only things inside of our control are what do I think, say, and do. So I'm personally grappling with that right now and trying to come to grips with, I'm not helping anybody by, not being just grateful for what I have right now and finding joy in it. If I'm, sort of looking stressed out or super sad or whatever about XYZ outcome, that just is not in my control.
Yeah, because all of the time and energy directed towards that sadness for how you wish things were just blinds you from being able to enjoy the bounty that you truly have.
Totally. And I need to listen to the Sparks of Gratitude podcast. This is just now coming to me, Randy, at 50 years in.
It's coming to us through some really hard things, because it really felt like for a long time we could dictate the outcome.
Yeah, we wanted an if-then statement life. Like, if I just do all these things, then these things will happen. And those are things that want to happen. So I'm going to do the first part of the clause. And we're just trying to let go of that.
Yeah. Well, there was a time when I first met Nate that it felt like anything that he wanted, he literally would write it down in his journal and it would come true. He just...
maybe it was a magic journal. I need to find that book. Where is that? And just start writing in the margins.
Because it felt like there were years where it was of course this is happening because that's what I wanted. And that's what I wrote down. And it just, and we were really and have been really blessed. And a lot of the things that we wanted have come to pass. But when your kids start growing up and using agency, and not necessarily even sometimes it's not even a bad thing. It's just not what you had expected. It's not what you thought. It's not what you had planned for. It's not what you'd prepared for. It's not what you're comfortable with. And it can just, you can get all tied up and then be miserable without realizing that, actually, we are living in the best part right now. There's so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear a lot of real life experience between the lines here. And it makes me think of 2 things. One, for about the last year or 2, I've been ruminating on the concept of expectation versus hope. And you repeated several of those, hopes or if then. And to me, if then is an expectation declaration. And I've been really practicing in my life to replace anytime I normally would have used the word expectation with the word hope, because an expectation is I'm setting myself up for, I'm arbitrarily saying that something is the thing that needs to occur. And if it doesn't, right, and it's completely arbitrary. Now, I do aspire to things and I'm moving towards a goal and I hope that X, Y, or Z happens. But if it doesn't, I'm still moving in that direction and I'm tripping along the way.
It's been helpful for me to actually say, my hope that's outside of my control is that.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Just to keep reminding myself that I don't get to pick all of these outcomes.
And it sounds like you're really working hard on that, Nate, and both of you, I'm sure. What has been helpful to you? Any tools or practices to address that challenge?
Well, we have been working with a therapist and a family coach. Our youngest son, was really having some struggles, which led us to a really great therapist that was working with him, and he works with us. And we have a parent coach, and we've been reading all the books that are recommended. And our oldest is 28. This is our youngest child, and we're learning things now that we're like, how did we survive this long? Like, in our marriage, raising all these kids, like we literally did not know how to communicate.
Yeah.
So we kind of were forced into this because we were failing. Like things were not good. And so I think that's just like a story of life. Like you're forced sometimes to learn things the hard way. And we had to learn kind of the hard way, but through like just a lot of coaching and repetition and this communication model that helps, I'm trying to communicate something. I use this structure of like, I feel statements. I feel this way. I feel this way when this happens. And I feel this way when that happens because I believe this. And then the thing that I hope that was outside of my control is this. The thing that I hope for that's inside of my control is this. And it's this very like rigid and it kind of feels clunky structure of like trying to communicate, but it creates this habit of like really looking at what's happening and how I'm feeling. And sometimes we blame our feelings on something else, but I don't know. It's just that process of trying to learn how to communicate that. And then also on the other side, like really listen. And sometimes that's the hardest part is to listen and try to reflect and validate as someone else is trying to sort through their feelings. But yeah, we've had some hard times and we've been putting in the work. And that doesn't mean we fall back into our bad habits.
No, we do. We do absolutely fall back into our bad habits. But I think what Vanessa said about the sort of clunkiness sometimes of that structure is actually a feature, not a bug. It's like makes me slow down a little bit. Like, okay, I'm going to actually process my way through the fact that I feel really sad right now. What's going on? Like, why am I feeling sad? And then what am I going to do about it? And what do I hope, will happen? But that I'm accepting is not in my control by saying it, kind of out loud or in my head. So I think it's some version of just slowing down and having some, we've been really fortunate to be able to work with some really wise people who've helped us learn about ourselves and about how the world actually works, how relationships actually work. So yeah, it's funny. We're, 50 years old and feel like we're like in kindergarten of how to learn some of this stuff.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books, also recommended to us by a really good friend, was I Don't Have to Make It All Better, which is like, wait a minute. I thought that was my exact job as a dad.
That sounds contrary to what you used to believe, Nate.
Exactly. So like, this is a page turner because it was like, wait a minute, every single thing I've ever thought was upside down. Like, it's kind of how I feel in this book, but it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And one other thing that I've kind of embraced is I tend to use the word but a lot, and I'm embracing my and. Like when I am saying something, or like if Nate's saying something to me and expressing something and I'm like, yeah, but da 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 da, it like negates what he's feeling. He doesn't feel heard or seen. But if I say, and how about this? It's more collaborative. And as that little thing is planted in my mind, I realize how often in communicating anywhere, at work, with friends, like in an email, how often I use that but how much more expansive an and is. Like, and it, as we were talking about gratitude, it just allows you to take the good and the bad and the ugly and the happy and the sad and just create this beautiful whole out of it. And every time you say but, it's like putting up blockers. But and allows just you to bring it all on as part of the experience.
You're right. But, pulls on the brakes, puts up the wall, and opens your arms, and it expands, adds to it. It multiplies. And my wife and I, obviously, I will admit, we've spent years with a family therapist, and I think everybody needs it. I think everybody needs it. And Dr. Paul Jenkins, and we interviewed him for this podcast too. And he would go through that exercise with us. Yes, and we took but out of our vocabulary, and it was difficult at first. And I'd have to notice what wants to come out of my mouth is but. And being able to switch that vocabulary is one of those small, intentional, deliberate practices that changes my life. Just like deliberate and intentional anything, that's what it takes. And something as small as a 3-letter word change has such a massive impact. So, yeah, you guys, I know that Nate's a big tennis fan, and you've made me think of something. And so I'm gonna see if I can pull together an analogy here. I don't know if you can see it, but right back here behind me, there's a little tennis ball and a thing. That's signed by Rafa Nadal.
Oh, come on!
What?
I'm gonna steal it.
He's so jealous.
I'm breaking into your house tonight to steal it.
You come over, you can hold it, but please don't steal it.
No, I won't steal it. But I would love to see. Seriously,
I caught that after I'll get to the story I wanted to tell, but Kathy and I were at Indian Wells, and we were watching. I've been to a million pro tennis tournaments, and I love it so much. It's so much fun. And after a player wins the match, they sign some tennis balls and hit them into the crowd, and they always hit them way out there. And I caught one, but it was so funny because it's my favorite player that I've watched, and he's been my favorite since 2004. When he was brand new on the scene, I said, "Who is this kid?" And I said, "This is my favorite player. I got to follow this guy." And I've been blessed with the best tennis for the last 20 years. And we were standing in the crowd, and at the end of the match, I stood up and I said, it just felt like everything was like in flow. I said, sometimes when they hit the ball, it bounces off something and then falls back down. So I just kind of stepped over onto the stairs, and it was like I saw it before it happened. The tennis ball went up, bounced off, and it came, and I didn't even have to move my hands. It just landed right in my hand.
So that's the universe talking.
So that's the story. But you told such, meaningful lessons that you've learned through struggles, deep struggles with, family, children using their agency and doing what you haven't hoped for. And I can't imagine the heartache that brings, and despair, and what lessons you're learning through that. How much of this experience is for you and making you stronger? And, maybe it's a crude comparison, but as I talk about tennis, I believe the best tennis players in the men's game have been created in the last 20 years because they had the other as that adversary. And they're each only as good as they are because they had that challenge.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, when you watch Sinner and Djokovic playing in the ATP finals this year, it was like tennis from another planet. Like you would have to be both of them to kind of do what just happened out there. It was, I love that idea, Randy. When you play, it's true in tennis too. When you're playing someone who hasn't played a lot, it's actually hard to play well. You do kind of need like a sparring partner to kind of keep pushing you. So I think that's definitely, life has been pushing us. Maybe we just think about it as like, are we in the ATP finals? Like, am I
we're being
Djokovic? Like, this is amazing.
Pain is not a negative thing or a negative emotion either. And maybe we can finish on this or respect your time. That's where growth occurs. I had an interview with a guy who's working on a book called Counterfeit Emotions. And he talks about the concept that every authentic emotion has its counterfeit. And an authentic emotion is positive and they drive you forward. Even an emotion which you might on the surface think is a negative emotion like guilt or pain. Those are positive and they drive you forward. But their counterfeit takes you down in a spiral. For example, comparing guilt to shame. Guilt is positive because it's an indicator that you have empathy. Whereas shame says that you have no value, right? And so identifying that guilt is positive So convert it to the positive. And pain is another one where pain is great. Misery is the alternative and the counterfeit to that. And pain takes us, if we'll allow it, that will help us grow and embrace it. It doesn't feel good. But when I look back through my most painful, darkest moments, I've realized I'm stronger than I thought I was. My parents, so a question for you. What's something your parents taught you that maybe when you were younger, you didn't believe them, but it's turned out to be true?
I think about my parents and the lessons. The most important lesson I feel like I learned from them is just watching them, and it's their steadiness. They're just so reliable. I know exactly what my mom and dad are going to do at any moment in time. Like, kind of no matter what comes at them, I know exactly how my dad would show up. My mom, I know how she would show up. So I just aspire to be like that. I want to be. I would love for my children to think dad was steady. Like, whenever XYZ happened, I knew I could count on dad. That's how I feel about my own dad and my own mom, and that's the lesson I'm trying to follow from them.
Oh,
My parents taught me that I could do anything I set my mind to, and I have always believed them. I don't know. Like, I have this weird thing that I just think I was just at an art show, like beautiful masterpiece, paintings. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I just feel like, I don't know. I'm grateful for that. And sometimes I get it over my head on things, but
you're not the one to make your parents a liar.
No, although there was this stage where my mom also told me how beautiful I was, like, my entire life. And now when I look back at through photos, I'm like, I had this stage of a few years where I believed her and she was not telling the truth. No, I'm glad that I've always believed her. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I feel like in part I'm doing this podcast as a selfish thing. I'm really doing this because I want to flood the world with good. I want to ignite a fire of gratitude, which is a hard thing to do, but it's changed my life. And I hope that others can make that intentional decision to seek gratitude wherever they go. And I'm grateful for you. And I hope that we can do this again sometime. Maybe Nate, we can do it at Indian Wells in a couple of months.
Yes. Yes.
I would love that. Well, thanks for the opportunity, Randy. It was really nice talking together and great to see you. And congratulations on what you're doing here. It would be amazing if you could somehow help all of us understand and practice gratitude better. So,
well, you're doing a good job. You're inspiring us. So thank you. Go have a date. Forget about me. You two deserve each other.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Take care.
See ya.